Will you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. It was a beautiful Sunday morning. The sun was shining in through the stained glass windows. The pews had started to fill. The bright green parapets were in place. The ushers were greeting the faithful. The deacons were chatting amongst themselves. And the elders of the church were beaming with joy at the new banner across the front of the church. And it read, "An expansive community of faith where everyone is embraced." Yes, it was a good day at the First Downtown Church, the Upright. The pastor gave a nod to Pearl, and as she had done every Sunday for the past 25 years, she began to chime the holy hour of Jesus. The leather peals of the most beautiful bells on the most beautiful organ at the most beautiful church with the most beautiful people. Indeed, it was a glorious day until they walked in. The whispers started immediately. If you listened closely, you could discern comments like, "She doesn't have any shoes. His shirt hasn't been washed in a week. Dreadlocks. Oh my gosh. Couldn't they get out to church down the street? I told them not to hang that banner. Everyone, indeed." As the family looked for a seat, there wasn't one to be found, except down front. And by down front, I mean right between the beautiful front pew and the beautiful altar. And that's where they were headed, all three of them, to the space on the floor. The man leaned over and said to his children, "See, they saved the best seats for us, right up close to the action. You were right, baby girl. We are welcome here. Good catch, see that man?" And with a high five, they sat down. The pastor was visibly uncomfortable. The greeters and the deacons had sat down just a moment too soon. How can this have happened? What are we going to do? And suddenly it was no longer a banner day at the First Downtown Church, the Upright. About that time, one of the elders of the church started down the center aisle. He was making a beeline to where the family had just seated themselves. There was a collective sigh of relief. Yep, old Doc Richardson, pillar of the community and long-standing member of First Downtown Church, he would take care of this. The congregants began to lean to the left and to the right, and to inch ever so slightly forward, as to get a soundbite of what he might say. And what happened next changed the First Downtown Church forever. Old Doc Richardson tapped the man on the shoulder, pointed to the little girl. There were some words exchanged, and then Doc, well, he smiled. He took off his shoes, muscled his way in between the little boy and the little girl, sat down between them, put his arms around them, and they all looked up just in time to hear the last peal of the last bell. Because after all, at the First Downtown Church, the Upright, everyone is embraced. Even if you haven't bathed, eaten, slept, or even if you sit on the floor. Now that's a great story, and it sounds like it should end with, "And they all lived happily ever after." And it ties in perfectly with today's text of the healing miracles of Jesus. Okay, now before you think I've lost my mind, I want to try to tie this together for you and tell you a few things that you should know. One, I love the healing stories of Jesus. Arguably, my favorite healing story is the one today of the woman with the hemorrhage. "If I could but touch the hem of his garment," as the story goes. It's a powerful image of personal faith and divine ability. I grew up in a faith community that believed in physical healings. As a child, I remember a religious service where a relative of mine came in on crutches, and after prayer, she left without them. So at the risk of sounding simple-minded, non-progressive, or like a religious fanatic, I believe in miracles of physical healing. I can't explain them, and I don't want to, but I simply believe in the power of the Creator to look at her creations, and in whatever way she does it, to shrink a tumor, to stop a migraine, to relieve anxiety, to grant sight to the blind, and to make someone on crutches not need them anymore. 3. When I read today's lectionary readings, I became excited. I imagined a rousing sermon about faith and healing, and in my mind I thought, wow, what if the Spirit shows up at Virginia Highland Church, and what if people begin to... And then I got this mental image of Scotty Dunn as a televangelist asking people to lay their hands on the TV screen. And I have to tell you, I dropped the lectionary, broke out in a cold sweat, and had to call one of my mentors almost in tears. As soon as she answered the phone, I blurted out, please tell me that God is not calling me to wear a bad comb-over and to tell people to lay their hands on the television screen. Now imagine that being the first thing you hear when you pick up the phone. So after she threw me a rope to climb down out of the crazy tree, and after she suggested that I sit with the text a little bit longer, I calmed down. And as so often happens, where I wanted to go in one direction, Spirit kind of urged me in another direction and said, dig a little deeper. What's beneath the obvious meaning here? And that's when I fell in love with Jesus again for about the third time this year. Because this text took on a new meaning and new life for me, and rather than being about healer Jesus, or magic Jesus, as I like to refer to him sometimes, it became about a much